Hey everybody, welcome back to Behind the Scenes. I'm your host, Natanya Klinger, and today I'm here with
Braden Lane Downey.
and
Riley Sanders.
And today we'll be talking about what it takes to write an article and the steps involving it. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's listening, and we hope that you enjoy this. I want to give a big thanks to Silver Sky Woodworking for being a sponsor on Viridian. Now let's get started. Riley, what inspired you to write?
So I love reading, so naturally writing's what comes next. I guess it was only a matter of time before I became interested in it. Honestly, I feel inspired through a lot of things though. My own personal interests definitely have a huge effect on that. But I also like hearing from people and I like giving people a voice when they can't speak for themselves. I definitely think I would have been like a muckraker, like in the early 1900s.
Okay, Lane, do you have anything to add to that?
Honestly, I just wanted to make a difference in the community around me and contribute to something larger than myself. And I feel that writing on Viridian was a great way to start.
Can you walk me through your process of researching for an article?
I sure can. First thing that I do is I begin to look into what I'm actually writing about, depending if it's a person or if it's a general topic. From there, I will go and try to interview a person if it's about a person, or I'll start doing research on whatever topic it may be. I'll try to get some sources and I'll begin to almost format in a way. And from there, I pretty much insert the rest of the article.
Okay, Riley, can you tell me how we come up with these topics?
Ooh, okay. So every Friday, our entire group, we all get together and we just come up with different ideas for the following week. My personal interest and my experiences definitely dictate which articles I get. And like, because I'm interested in art, so I get a lot of the art galleries and just news coverage on that versus somebody who might be more interested in like the FFA and the clubs and the FBLA. They would get more they would get more articles dictated towards that.
Lane, can you tell me what some key elements are what that you consider when you are searching for an article?
Well, one of the first things that I'll start to consider is what it's talking about, whether it's a person or a subject. I try to find out exactly what I'm writing about. I will find information about that thing, and I'll find something to link what a reader would be reading to that article. Therefore, it almost attaches the reader so that they're not just reading a bland article with nothing special about it. I try to find something that gets my reader engaged, whether it's a hint of emotion or anything really that I can help my reader grasp whatever that topic may be. Those are usually the elements that I try to include with my articles.
And how do you fully ensure that your articles are engaging enough for the readers?
Well, I like to read them myself. Occasionally, I will ask people around me to read the articles. Other than that, I will go and I'll compare my articles that I read and write to others that have been written through Viridian, and I kind of just compare how it looks when put up to another article or something.
Okay. Riley, I have a question for you. What kind of editing and proofreading do you do before letting an article go?
Oh man, okay, so I do a lot of proofreading because I just want to make sure that I don't misspell something or that I get a name wrong. Before every article, I always put them through a spell checker and sometimes a paraphraser just to see if anything sounds better or more fluent in the sentence. Afterwards, I personally go back and I check again and again, making sure it didn't autocorrect any quotes because we need to keep them directly from somebody's mouth. I also make sure they didn't change anybody's name because sometimes names are spelled differently and autocorrect just likes changing it the way it wants to. If I'm working with a partner, they'll also do it and they'll put it through a spell checker and then we both compare which one we like better, and that's usually the version we end up going with. Or sometimes we just combine them.
When I decide to think about letting an article go, I make sure that I run it through spell checker, just as Riley was saying. And we do that a couple times. We double, triple check it all the time. Grammarly is another good tool.
Yeah, I use Quillbot personally. I feel like it works better. I use Grammarly sometimes, but sometimes it just corrects it in a way I don't want to. And we have pages that we have to like go through and personally sign with our signature. And like one of the requirements is that we like triple check names. That's like a big thing. You don't want to mess up somebody's name because they're reading it, their parents are reading it, maybe teachers are reading it, and you just the names are important. You want to make it right.
Another thing that I was going to say and add on to that, everyone's got different tools that they use. Like I use Grammarly, you use Quillbot. It's really just up to the writer and what they work with best.
How did you guys develop your writing skills, and would you even really call them a skill?
Practice, practice, practice. I really don't think that I would have been nearly as good of a writer as I am now if you had asked me to write maybe a couple of years ago. I really feel like as I've written more through being on the team, it's allowed me to refine my writing skills and get a better grasp of how to really talk to people, but not just in person to person, but really express my ideas and such. It allows for just a lot deeper understanding. So the more that you write, the better it gets. And I feel that the time that I've spent on Viridian has allowed me to really refine those skills.
Definitely what Lane was saying. If you want to get better at writing, you have to just go for it. You just have to start. That's how you develop your skills. Personally, before you start writing, I think you need to learn the language. And I don't want to sound like a nerd, but I love English class and I love reading. So that's how I learned how to write. That's how I learned how to just pick up pauses in sentences and where words were emphasized, etc. And I feel like because I can pick up things like that, that it helps me write, it helps me learn to write, and you just kind of read what people are also going to be reading, and it definitely helps you create sentences that flow better. And it also helps you know when people are going to get bored, because at some point, if it's too just
Fluffy.
long, fluffy, people are going to get bored and they're not going to want to read it. I don't really know if I would call these skills because I feel like anybody who puts forth the effort and puts forth the time can be a good writer. It's just you have to make sure that you are truly passionate about it, because if you're just writing to write, well, anybody can just
That's a good point.
spit out words. But when you put forth emotion and put your passions behind it, and the passions of other people too, that's what really makes
Ties
it a
it
good
together,
article.
yeah.
Okay, now you guys were talking about this earlier. What's your process in writing? Like, how do you go about doing that if your deadline is in a week?
For me, what I do is when I get my topic or I find out what my article really is, I will first start brainstorming. I have a system really. I either write down on a piece of paper or in a document, and I talk about just that overall topic, I guess. I get out all my ideas. I just let my brain run wild with the idea. And from there, I'll come back to that article or that paper and I'll read it myself and find out what parts of those, like paragraphs and different things that I've written, what parts really fit together and what doesn't, what's more out of the box, what's inside the box. I try to find a way to combine a good amount of what my brain spits out into my articles, but it has to make sense. And if I were to just throw it all into an article, most of it probably wouldn't make sense.
Well, I'm a little bit different. I have to pace myself because if I don't, it will be Thursday and I'm rushing to type everything. So Monday is kind of a research day. I find out who I'm going to be interviewing. I find out where they are. We have a master block list that tells us where everybody is in that block if they have a class. And I just find out the people I'm interviewing. I find out who was in the event or what the event was about, and kind of just outline what I'm going to do. And then Tuesday, interviews, get all my interviews, all my emails, all my dialogue typed up. Wednesday, it's writing. Thursday, finishing up, and then editing.
I really feel like that's a very good strategy that you have.
Yeah,
I will
and
say though,
again, if I don't,
yeah, you gotta make sure that you're pacing yourself for how you write. I think a good point though to make is it really does depend on what articles you are best at writing. Like you were saying that you interview people. I don't really talk to many of the people in the school. I more or less do school events and things that aren't necessarily directly tied to students here. So for me, it's most definitely going to be a little different from your process where you're really actually talking to people and you're getting that inside scoop from them.
Absolutely.
Okay, as we're winding down the podcast, I only have a couple more questions. And these are, what do I want to say? These are interesting. Intriguing question. If you were a punctuation mark, which one would you be and why?
I would probably be, I'm pretty sure I'm saying this right, an ellipsis, like the dots. Mainly because half the time I forget what I'm talking about and then I kind of trail off and remember and then I keep going on a different topic altogether. And they're also low key a little passive aggressive and I think that's probably suiting for me. So
Personally, I would be a semicolon. You could stop reading right there. I warned you, but you kept going.
Okay, and last question. If you were going to interview and write about anybody in the whole world, who would you write about?
okay, oh my gosh, so this is really easy. I'm pretty sure her name's Zoe Saladana. Anyway, girl's gotta be like the best. She's in Guardians of the Galaxy and she's also in Avatar. She's named Tiri and I love Avatar, obsessed with Avatar. I would love to interview her because that's just like such a huge accomplishment to be in basically the Avengers and
The
then
hugest
being,
films in the world.
yeah, and then being in a James Cameron film. Like, excuse me?
On top of the world.
Would literally, oh my god, I would love to interview her.
Well, I would love to interview John Greenleaf Whittier. He was an American fireside poet. We've been learning about him actually in an English class. Shout out to Bradley for actually enjoying those. I think that interviewing him would be pretty cool. He had some very interesting and unique ideas about society as a whole and how things in the world should work. And his perspective on life was very unique, and I find it quite intriguing. I really wish that I could talk to him and ask him just his opinions on the world and what's going on around us today. I feel that he would have great suggestions, but not only great suggestions, I feel that he would have very interesting thoughts and ideas about it all.
Okay, I think that wraps up our podcast today. I just want to say thank you all for tuning in, and we hope you tune in next time to learn some of our staff's favorite things about school, events and school, topics, teachers, anything fun about school that you could think of. All those old memories, everything.